Okay, Kyle Hines from Buildster. We're going to jump into a quick demo today of a pattern that's been really successful for some of our startup customers. The basis of all of this is there's a lot of really good information about how Connect works, the in-call analytics, after-call analytics, but the big pattern that we're seeing is the data coming from Connect being piped to other places that might not usually have access to it. Sales, product, engineering is great, but the big game changer is enriching that data from the customer success interaction from Connect with data from other places to give a more holistic view and to some oftentimes pinpoint insights that would have been invisible otherwise. This is something that we don't see most of our startup customers having, especially in their earlier years, but it is something that most of our startup customers, competitors, large incumbents, oftentimes enterprises have, that they've thrown millions of dollars at the problem of correlating all these different data points and paying for extremely restrictive licenses for data warehouses and et cetera, et cetera. So the general pattern that we're talking about here, we won't get too far into exactly how Connect works, because again, there's a lot of good stuff out there about that. But if we do instrument the customer success function with Connect, pulling the data from those interactions combined with data from CRM, finance data, contracts, clickstream, website data, social data, whatever the case may be, it's a little bit different in each customer. But we'll start by just kind of simulating a text interaction here. On the left is the customer. Then it'll put in the queue for our agent. Simulating sort of a negative, less than perfectly positive interaction and chat on the customer side, close the contact on the agent side. So from here, information about the calls each time a call happens, and then sort of ad hoc in the back end, a lot of capabilities there as well. But after the call closes, information about the call, how long was it, who was involved, sentiment score. One of the most important metrics that comes from a Connect call is sentiment score. Inside of Connect, you can do sentiment score overall as the interaction. You can specify just the customer, just the agent, or even the bot. We can get the sentiment from a Lex bot or a text bot, chat bot interaction. And it can chart how sentiment changes throughout the call. And then you can even take the sentiment down to an individual message, individual text message throughout the conversation. So the flowing that data into somewhere where it's going to be useful for the rest of the business is a lot of the crux of this. So if we look at the way many customers are doing this, is flowing that information right into a QuickSight dashboard combined with data from other places, as I said in the beginning. So we'll look at our kind of fake customer here. You can just, for starters here, I'll scroll to the bottom and show the last support interaction sentiment. What was the sentiment of the last time they touched base with support, and when was it? So this shows a 1.7 out of 5. Obviously, that text interaction wasn't super positive. It gives it a timestamp. But to jump back up to the beginning here, it's tough to get insights in the same place from disparate sources. So a lot of the original hypothesis of going down this road was having conversations with customers about, if you're going into one of your top customer QBRs, do you have the data readily accessible about the health of the relationship overall and where it's going and how could it be improved and how would we improve it? And most of our customers say, no, we've got to mine through tons of spreadsheets. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of disparate manual effort, undifferentiated heavy lifting to get it all together. So they take this as art of the possible. This is when we build something like this as Buildster, it's not as a product to sell. So we're not going to build an analytics product to bolt on to Connect and sell it. We're a services company. Our goal is that when we execute the same use case or the same subject matter area more than a couple of times, we end up having really well-refined tools that we leave behind for the customer to be as self-sufficient as possible when we're done. So this isn't a product we sell. So I would just take this as art of the possible, get the creative juices flowing. These are some of the stats that we've seen be really helpful to other customers. So if you had the ability just to pull up the account and see, a lot of these data points come from different places. Even just getting them in the same place is a big win for a lot of customers. So right off the bat, the lifetime value of the customer and what happens next. Is there a renewal coming up? If there is it at risk? How big is it? When is it happening? What should we know about it? You kind of get that in this top bar here. Attrition scores pull from a lot of different things. There are a lot of different ways to build these attrition models in SageMaker, to pull in sentiment of support interactions from Connect and other places, other data around the business to come up with an attrition score, meaning out of 100, how likely are they to leave and not execute this next renewal. So we'll talk a lot about that a little bit more when we roll up some of this data in like a territory sort of a view. But at the account level here, you can see 57 out of 100, that's a 57% chance they choose not to execute the renewal. Sentiment of all of their support interactions in aggregate, 65 out of 100, not the worst in the world, not the best in the world. Drilling a little bit further into that, we've seen customers do things like plotting the change in CSAT score. Maybe it's an automated survey that goes out so you have continuous collection of that data. Maybe it's a self-selection at the end of a feature enrollment, whatever the case may be. However you're getting a CSAT score, plotting that against some data from the Connect side of the house, from the customer success function of plotting CSAT against high, medium, low call volume as time goes. Are they calling in more because they're unhappy, or are they calling in more and that's resolving the problem? A lot of different things can be picked out of a chart like this. Plotting CSAT against revenue is something we've seen customers do as well. As they're calling in more, as they're having more interactions, as they're having more positive or more negative interactions, how is that, and is that having an effect on revenue? That's an easy way to see that here. Even just understanding, like, what's the breakdown of how many times do they call in and have a negative interaction or a positive interaction? And I say call in. Connect is fully omni-channel, so whether it's a phone call or a text interaction or a chatbot interaction, this is going to capture it regardless of the method or the mode of interaction. So this is just a quick way by account to see many more positive interactions than neutral and negative, but a fair smattering, a kind of a even distribution. Some of the proactive action that we've seen a lot of customers doing is enrolling in campaigns, outbound proactive campaigns based on this data. So if CSAT falls below a certain amount for a certain period of time, then enroll them in the CSAT Save campaign. Maybe it's about nurturing the renewals. If we see the attrition score is a little high and the upcoming renewal is coming up soon and it's a large one, then maybe it makes sense to enroll them in the nurture renewal campaign. Enrolling in the new feature, that's something we'll talk about on the territory roll up. But are they using the new features? Are our customers using the new things? Are they liking it? How much are they using it? That's really useful data to the product organization that can be gleaned out of these support interactions oftentimes. So I'll quickly shoot to this territory roll-up view. So whether it was your top 5 accounts or your top 10 or your top 10%, whatever the case may be, these are some really interesting data points that have started to move the needle for some of our customers. Even just being able to walk into a board meeting and being able to speak to the health of your top customers, the likelihood that things are going to keep going the same way or improve for the better or for the worse without spelunking through a million different systems has been a pretty big windfall for a lot of customers. So we come into, maybe it's the top 50 customers, just as the example for this demo. How many renewals are we looking at, or what's the total of aggregate amount of renewal in the next 6 months? 95 million. And then take that attrition score. So each customer has an attrition score. What's our average attrition score out of the customers who are going to renew in the 6 months? Gives us a way to forecast more than just guessing at how much of our chunk of renewal in the next 6 months is up for risk, is at risk, or is being subjected to risk of attrition. And you can drill this down by accounts, and you can kind of see a spread here of, maybe it's a very large spread from 0 to 100. You have very happy and very unhappy customers at the same time. You get more and more familiar with this data. You learn things like oftentimes the high 90s of attrition scores are folks that have already indicated they're not going to renew for one reason or another. And then distilling attrition scores, the renewal amount, the time amount down to a yes or no. Are they a retention risk? What retention risks do we have in the territory has been useful for some customers too, just to be able to look at, out of this top 100 or so customers, how many are at risk? How many are not? Very quickly. Getting down more into some product type data, are they enrolled in the new feature? Are they even set up for it is one question. Sometimes could be a little bit hard to answer, but that comes out of support interactions quite a bit. So are they enrolled in the new features? That's one thing. Are they using them is another. So being able to see when has it been used, how much has it been used, and there's a lot of really useful correlation that can be done to when are they using the new feature to when did we see the CSAT changes show up as well. That can tell us a lot about whether the new feature is maybe making things better or maybe it's making things worse. And then, we put the effort into making our customers self-sufficient. As a whole, as startups, we want our customers to be as armed and empowered as they can be. We give them a self-service portal and as good of documentation as we can. Are they using it? Are they logging in? Is that having an effect? Are they using the portal? Is that having an effect? Again, back to CSAT scores. So, and then a little bit, just a roll up of what we saw on the account page. That was at the account level. This is at the territory level. Are they enrolled in the CSAT? How many folks do we have enrolled in the CSAT campaign? How many folks do we have enrolled in the nurturing renewals campaign? And then a little bit of preference for support mode. In our territory, is it true that people don't want to pick up the phone anymore? Doesn't look like it here. There's a fair amount of text with agent interactions and text with bot interactions, but still plenty of voice. So this is good examples of the types of stats that we've seen customers be able to take from customer success, enrich with data from other places, and then set up certain outbound proactive communication that can actually move the needle. So this isn't just reading the news in a dashboard. It's reading the news in a dashboard and knowing that certain actions are going to be taken when certain points hit certain thresholds. Okay, and then one last feature to show here in this approach is a really powerful one. Natural language querying, NLQ. It's starting to be called quite a bit. Some folks are calling it generative business intelligence or Gen BI. It's basically the ability to use a chat interface to ask a natural language question of your data set, of your dashboard. So this is going to let a lot of people who are maybe non-technical, non-engineering backgrounds ask questions of the data, get answers from the data without knowing how to construct SQL queries and some of the lower level data engineering types of things. So as long as you enable it on the back end, any QuickSight dashboard is going to have this button right at the top, ask a question about the dashboard. This is Amazon Q as baked right into QuickSight itself, Q for QuickSight. You can also enrich the answers it's able to provide with Q for Business. You give it a bit of a knowledge base, train it up on some of your data specifically. We'll get into that in a deeper video with Gen AI and some retrieval augmentation stuff. But let's just ask a question of this dashboard in normal language. The sum of renewals for the next 30 days. Now Q for QuickSight's going to go look at the data sets. It's going to go crawl that data. It's going to understand it a bit. Then it's going to come back not just with an answer, but with a visual. So you could see, just like any other constructing of a QuickSight dashboard, you're right into being able to change the type of visual or edit the visual in whatever way you want to, add it to different sheets, add it to the dashboards. So this is kind of a superpower of QuickSight, especially in a solution like this one where we're inherently pulling together from a bunch of different places for a bunch of different parties to be able to sort of cross-pollinate insights that would be hard to find if those data sets weren't in the same places. Putting a natural language interface in front of that is kind of a big step forward. So we'll talk a little bit to wrap up here about the tech approach, and we won't get too deep. This is a little bit of an oversimplified diagram, but just wanted to give an idea of what it looked like behind the scenes. This top piece is, we're going to oversimplify and just say, however the customer chooses to interact, whether that's over voice or chat with a human agent or over chat with a LexBot or an Amazon Q or a Bedrock powered LLM or Gen AI powered agent, it's all going to flow the same way on the back end. So we're still going to do the sentiment scoring the same way. We're still going to flow data to the same places in similar ways. A little bit of differences on what types of data drops right into a S3 bucket versus needing Amazon Data Firehose for ingestion. But leaving that aside, customer's going to interact with Connect. Our agents on the customer side, the end customer, the end user, is going to interact with Connect. Customers support, customer success agents are going to meet the customer through Connect. That's kind of the doorway. And then the data flowing to this insights layer, to the data platform layer, takes a few different forms. And this is kind of the center of the house here. And I'll skip to the bottom here and show whether it's pre-baked integrations through AppFlow to Salesforce, Zendesk, ServiceNow, Marketo, I think is another, or custom integrations through EventBridge. Plenty of custom integrations out there to be discovered. Being able to pull the data in from other interesting places is half the value here. So the top of the chart is whatever channel of interaction the customer takes and whatever other interesting data is in the customer business is going to flow into this insights layer. So sometimes it's as simple as call transcripts, chat logs, survey responses or something from Connect, drops right into an S3 bucket that makes itself very nicely available. Data from the Connect interactions and other data inside of the business oftentimes are good for retrieval augmentation. So especially as we want to increase the agent's ability to do things autonomously, the Gen AI powered agents, not the human agents, retrieval augmentation can be a really good way to make the Gen AI powered agents a little bit smarter, a little more autonomous, be able to take more action that they could be trusted with. So Connect data coming in from one side, other interesting data sources from the business coming in from the other side, both meeting in this insights layer, often getting augmented. For the Gen AI side, we talked a little bit about sentiment scores and SageMaker. That's going to be for a different video to dive deep into how that box actually works. And then sort of your usual suspects on the data transformation side. There's a lot of really good business insights that don't need extremely fancy data analytics. They just need to be dropped somewhere accessible like S3. They need a little bit of cleaning up and indexing and making ready to be used through Glue and Athena. And then we can put them right into the QuickSight dashboard the way we saw it just a second ago. So that's kind of a high level overview of the tech side of things, but hopefully that was useful. If you're looking through this and thinking to yourself, have customers done this? Have they done that? Don't hesitate to reach out to us. This is a work in progress. And again, not a product we sell, just a toolkit we show up with to be a little bit more useful in the first couple innings of the game. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll talk to you soon.